The equipment in question does not have the technical capability to access RCMP radio communications. Moreover, RCMP radio communications are protected with end-to-end encryption using the Canadian Centre for Cybersecurity's encryption standard. While the radio frequency filtration equipment procured from Sinclair Technologies poses no security concerns given its specific function, the use of the current standing offer was suspended on December the 9th, 2022, and a stop work order for undelivered goods was issued as well on the same date. Further reviews are being conducted by the RCMP's independent audit unit. Again, Mr. Chair, there is no reason to believe Canada's national security was under threat at any time during this process. I want to assure you and the public that the standards are already extremely high and robust. And the proof of that is not only in the results of this case, and I have confidence in the assessment that has been done by the RCMP that there were no risks posed in the circumstances of this contract and the procurement and the services that were obtained as a result. But beyond that, we are deploying an array of tools every day, 24/7. And as you know, Mr. McGregor, from your work on the public safety file, that we have to be ever vigilant about this, that we are constantly reassessing, reevaluating whether or not there are new threat vectors which may be posed by hostile actors, which is why in this particular matter and in all matters, we will apply a very strict standard, and that is precisely the instructions that I have issued to the agencies within this portfolio.
The existing processes that are in place in regards to contracting for the federal government departments rely on verifications that are performed by our colleagues at PSPC, Procurement Services and Public Services and Procurement Canada. So in this case, we did do a validation with the RCMP in regards to the integrity regime, which ensures that the government does business with ethical suppliers. That validation came back indicating that there were no flags, and therefore the standing offer was let with Sinclair Technologies by PSPC.
The notes and stuff that you read on the last answer, but my question wasn't that. My question is, as one of our primary security forces for this country, why is it you do not have your own knowledge and intelligence and the work that you do with our other security agencies to know and be aware of all companies that pose a threat, particularly when they've been charged with espionage in the United States? I find it incredible that you have to rely on Procurement Canada to tell you that. Isn't that your job and the job of CSIS and some of the others? Do you not talk?
I have, as the Chief Financial Officer at the RCMP, I don't have access myself to a listing of all suppliers abroad, and that is why in my capacity at the RCMP I rely on the processes in place by the federal government, and I validate these transactions with my colleagues at PSPC.
I'll ask the same question to your colleague then, as an RCMP officer, senior RCMP officer and a deputy commissioner. Are you not aware of Chinese state national companies that have been charged with espionage and our closest ally?
Through you, Mr. Chair, thank you for the question. Deputy Commissioner Mike Dehem, that oversees our federal policing and national security file. This is of interest and concern, and one of the reasons of the due diligence review and the internal audit is to look at how do we enhance these processes. What I want to reemphasize is that the piece of equipment that was procured through our radio subject matter experts.
A lot of testimony on that already, but I'm trying to get at the process issue that led to these decisions around that, because it's not the only one that's been happening in the government of Canada. It's happened in Canadian Border Services Agency, again with a company that's owned by Hytera. These are serious issues. Now, the U.S. Public Safety and Homeland Security Bureau has published a list of communications equipment and services that are deemed to pose an unacceptable risk to national security of the United States. Has the RCMP, with your security counterparts, produced such a list for Canada?
Not to our knowledge, no.
Okay. How about, it was referenced earlier by my colleague from the NDP, about the FCC. And the FCC in the United States has put out a list of radio and telecommunications equipment that pose a national threat or need national protection, I guess, for security issues. Has the RCMP, or the security intelligence establishment that you're aware of, done the same thing in Canada? We've got a list of those things.
I'm not aware of such a list at the RCMP.
So I guess this is why we see that these, relatively in the size of the government of Canada, small procurements can slip through the cracks when agencies don't have that kind of help and assistance to figure this stuff out. Even, surprisingly, in our security intelligence agencies.
We are doing, obviously, the technical review, so we're still using equipment that has been procured across our nation. There's significant amount of radio filtration equipment that is across our nation on radio towers. We are doing the technical review, which includes spot audits to ensure that none of the equipment is compromised. And we also have the due diligence review, and we're looking forward to the internal recommendations around the use of that equipment, as well as any recommendations that may come from this committee, which will determine the outcome. I do want to reiterate that there's no access to our encrypted radio communications. We continue to believe that this is low risk, although we look forward to the recommendations from committee as well as the internal findings of our internal audit.